All right, we now welcome on Ron Higgins from TigerDetails.com. That's the LSU site, part of the Rivals Network. Ron, big win for the Tigers last weekend. And I feel like we should start broad, start with, everybody thinks back to the week one loss against Florida State if you're not in Baton Rouge. And so kind of take us through how LSU has gotten to this point.
Well, maybe most of the nation expect Brian Kelly to have an immediate miracle when LSU hired him. LSU, man, they caught a lot of crap for hiring Brian Kelly because they paid him $9 million a year, and they said he wasn't a cultural fit. Well, neither was Nick Saban at LSU. If you look at most of the national championships won by SEC coaches in the past 2 decades, they've been by people not from the South, except for Orgeron. The perfect storm led LSU to win that national championship. LSU had 39 scholarship players after the bowl game, and Kelly had to go. He put together a recruiting class like 15 freshmen, 15 four-year transfers. First time I've ever seen the SEC school trade straight up trade defensive backs with Arkansas. LSU likes who they have, and I'm telling you, when y'all got Dwight McLaughlin, you got a really good defensive back. And I knew that when he went there. But the first game, you had a new quarterback, you had basically a new offensive line, a defensive backfield. I think they had like 5 of their top 6 cornerbacks were transfers. And they didn't play well. They still almost won the game and came back. And Kelly kind of saw that night. Now, at least I know I have a team that'll fight. They will not give up. And LSU's kind of progressively gotten better every game. For a while, the biggest problems were the special teams, which really couldn't field a punt without fumbling it. And Jayden Daniels, the quarterback, was reluctant to throw the ball downfield, held the ball too long, would absolutely wait till a receiver was wide open before he throw to him. And it really held LSU back. But the last 3 games, I guess the fall came off Daniels. Our Brian Kelly, basically said, you got to throw the effing ball downfield or we're not going to win. And Daniel started trusting his receivers, started throwing the ball before guys got open. He threw balls up to let guys make plays. And it's just exploded this team, with wins over Florida, Ole Miss, and Alabama. Daniels is a really good passer. He can just rip it when he throws it. He's second in the nation in pass attempts to interception ratio, 268 attempts, 1 interception. And for a while that seemed to hinder him because he was being too careful with the ball. But his last 3 games, he's let it rip and trusted his receivers. And he's a hell of a running quarterback. Some plays are designed, some are not. Maybe the fastest quarterback LSU's had. He's hard to deal with. I remember watching one preseason scrimmage, and preseason scrimmages, quarterbacks are down when they're touched. They'll want them tackled. He had like a 25-yard run on a run option keeper, and it was like watching a kid on the playground play flag football. Nobody could touch him, and he's that good. And so LSU offensively, they've just exploded. Defensively, they've been pretty good all along. And they make really good defensive adjustments at halftime. I think they've only given up 7 points in the third quarter in the last 7 games. They make great halftime adjustments and shut people down. And now that LSU's offense is kind of awake in games early, a problem that earlier had been they got behind in double figures in 3 SEC games and came back and won all of them, but they got tired of getting behind. So it's really been a lot of improvement. And Kelly's done a really good job with this team's psyche. Basically, he reminds me a lot of Saban in the sense he concentrates on the process more than the outcome. And he's also talking about the process of building winning and process of preparing for a game rather than the outcome. And the guy's very comfortable in his own skin. He's a very professional type coach. Handles stuff really well. He's the first coach I've ever come across that doesn't lie about injuries, doesn't cover up injuries. A lot of coaches ask, "Is so and so hurt?" Well, we have, there's a HIPAA law. We can't talk about that. Yes, Kelly. Yeah, Garrett Dellinger. Yeah, last week, Garrett Dellinger. I'm not going to let him play. He's still not well. He's out. I ruled him out. He's not going to play. And it's refreshing to hear a coach be comfortable in his own skin and not oh, I got to hide this. This will give me an advantage. So yeah, it's been a nice a nice ride so far. But they know they got a lot of work left to do. I mean, a lot of work. And they know Arkansas is dangerous. They know A&M, as bad as they have been, could wake up. And they got UAB in between, which of course is 1-1 against LSU. Beat Nick Saban in his first year. So the LSU. So they know they got a long way to go.
I'm curious, after the Alabama win, the gutsy, the 2-point conversion call at the end of the game pays off. The fans storm the field. I think LSU's up to 7 in the college football playoff rankings now. I mean, they're a 2-loss team, but is this a team that's actually considering making a playoff push right now?
I mean, it looks that way, but again, Kelly's done a really good job with this team saying, you know what, we're not even thinking about playoffs. We got to think about the next game. We can't think 2-3 weeks ahead. I mean, this is the way we've operated all year. We've operated on what's in front of us, and then whatever happens, happens. I mean, like 3 or 4 weeks ago, you would never thought LSU was in this position. I mean, Tennessee came in here. LSU self-destructed right off the bat, fumbled the opening kickoff, then allowed a long punt return. They're down 10-zip before, fans were able, fill their coach with bourbon. So I mean, it was that quick. And that day you walked out stadium with a 40-13 loss. Like, are they going to win another SEC game? Holy, I mean, they were awful. They looked awful. And then bam, they go into Florida and they start quick and score 45. They put 45 on Ole Miss and they shut their offense down. A week off, and then they played their one of the best games probably ever seen in Tiger Stadium against a really good Alabama team. Of course, Alabama fans are suicidal at this point. Their team has lost 2 games, and Nick Saban can't coach anymore, so it's all over. But Alabama loses 2 games in the last seconds, and so I always, Alabama football fans remind me of Kentucky basketball fans. They're never supposed to lose, and if they do, it's either the coach's fault or the officials screwed them. 1 of the 2. In this case, LSU played great and beat them. But I mean, LSU knows who they are. They know they've had to fight for everything to get to this point this season. They're very wary going to Arkansas. They know. Look, Arkansas beat LSU last year. I mean, granted, Ed Orgeron was a coach and he had no clue how to play his quarterbacks. But Sam did a nice job. And they came in and won at LSU. I know Arkansas has had a struggle lately, but it's LSU, Arkansas, man. Anything can happen. I mean, just ask, Houston Nutt and Matt Jones.
Yeah. The rivalry aspect of it definitely adds a little bit, but I wanted to go back to kind of what you said about LSU, that the week after the Tennessee game, they won that Florida game. And then also their other SEC road game at Auburn, another close game. So just on the road, how has LSU performed this season in those 2 games, Auburn and Florida?
I guess kind of different dynamics. Florida was the first time their offense really woke up and put a lot of points up. Auburn, they got down, I think, 13 or 17 nothing and came back. LSU doesn't panic. You can tell that. I mean, the thing about Kelly that's really good is that there's never a lot of panic in what they're doing. You won't see him if they get down a couple of touchdowns. It's like, oh man, we got to start throwing the ball a bunch. They kind of stay within themselves, and then again, once they get hot offensively, I mean, they'll score 5 or 6 times in a row. It's happened a couple of times this year. They just absolutely just explode. once they get hot offensively. And a lot of times it's like it's like trying to start your car in Fayetteville in the winter. It's just like and the offense is kind of like that. All of a sudden, when it catches, it just goes off. Uh, Defensively, again, like I said, they make great halftime adjustments, and I mean, they've played some their second half defensive this year. Just about every one of them have been great. They really have, and so they seem to pick up momentum after halftime on both sides of the ball. But offensively, a lot of times it usually starts in the second quarter. But against Alabama, they did play a lot better early in the game.
So we know that LSU's coming off obviously the biggest win of the Brian Kelly era, and Arkansas is probably coming off the biggest letdown of the Sam Pittman era, albeit a little bit longer than Kelly. But I mean, everything, especially now that KJ Jefferson's status is up in the air for Saturday. Everything seems to point to an LSU victory this weekend. I'm wondering if you see it that way, or if it just comes off as a trap game because of the last weekend's results on both sides.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a trap game, but I kind of agree with Brian Kelly. I mean, like, what's a trap game? Because 4 weeks ago, you sure as hell didn't think LSU would look at this as a trap game. You didn't think LSU would be surviving 4 weeks ago, and now all of a sudden it's a trap game. Don't expect LSU to win, probably, yeah. But again, I've covered so many LSU Arkansas games. I'll see so many goofy things happen. LSU's national championship year, and 2007. Darren McFadden just runs up and down Tiger Stadium. I mean, my God, they're running the Wildcat. You know what he's going to do, even though he probably passed for more touchdowns than any running back in college history. But on that day, he killed LSU. And LSU thought they were out of the national championship until crazy things happened to get the Saturday of the SEC championship game. You've seen nutty things happen. Again, Houston, Matt Jones, a miracle Markham. I mean, Matt Jones, one of the most god-awful passes you've ever seen, all of a sudden turns into Peyton Manning on the last drive and takes him in for the game-winning score. Saban lost a game late at Arkansas that cost LSU, I think, a chance into the SEC championship game. LSU knows Arkansas is capable of anything, of winning, even when it doesn't look like. I think Kelly has done a really good job this week with his team, saying, this Alabama game was great, but it was wonderful, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't finish this out. So yeah, I mean, they're going to Arkansas very focused. I know it'll be a bit cold by Baton Rouge standards. I know it's an 11 a.m. start. For most LSU fans, I mean, they have to adjust their drinking time to like about 3 a.m. to start. But they understand what they're getting into. And people say, "What's the score be? Would it be a blowout?" I can't tell you. Like I said, goofy things happen in this game. I mean, knock on wood. What happens if Jaden Daniels gets hurt early in the game? You're gonna put Garrett Nussmeier in there, and we saw what he did last year against Arkansas. Just a gunslinging wild child, I mean, he's gotten better, but he really hadn't played any this year because Daniels has been so dominant. And Daniels has surprised a bunch of people because in the spring, he wasn't the best quarterback on this roster, and he's just gotten progressively better game to game. And again, once he came over his fear of throwing the ball downfield and trusted his receivers, he's been unbelievable. I mean, he's second in the nation in rushing among quarterbacks. Counted for like 14 TDs the last 3 games. He's like on fire. But again, with this team, when it gets hot, it really gets hot.
So you talked about the hot starts on offense, or I'm sorry, the slow starts on offense, and then the offensive explosions. And you talk about crazy things happening. I personally, I think the craziest thing that would happen is if Arkansas's defense showed up and played a good game. Even though they played a good game against Liberty, but it was against a third-string quarterback. But let's look at the Arkansas offense versus the LSU defense, because I don't know if it's a smokescreen from Sam Pittman or not with the whole KJ Jefferson, Malik Hornsby thing. We know KJ didn't look like himself last weekend, but this Arkansas offense is still really good. You got the leading rusher in the SEC in Rocket Sanders. You got some great pass catchers, and then an offensive line that it's one of the best in the country, despite what they did last weekend. So, what can the LSU defense do to kind of mimic what Liberty did last weekend?
I guess LSU's defense is kind of be itself. It's been pretty good all year. Again, the second half adjustments. The defensive line has been really good. They have two or three really good rush ends. They got a freshman linebacker who's hell on wheels, Harold Perkins, SEC Defensive Player of the Week. He's a guy that if you put on to spy quarterback, that quarterback's not going to get much. He did a really good job last week. I know it may not look like it in the stats, but he did a really good job on Bryce Young last week, and put a lot of pressure on him. I mean, forced through a lot of incompletions. I think Bryce Young was sub 50% passer last week. Harold Perkins, once LSU figured out how to get him on the field, when Harold came to LSU, he was an inside linebacker, and they moved to outside linebacker, but they didn't want to put him in packages early in the year or maybe halfway through the year, really, that would make him uncomfortable, or then somebody he could execute. The guy executes everything, so now they're trying to keep him on the field as much as possible. And he's really been a huge asset. LSU's starts four freshmen, three on offense, and Harold Perkins has started on defense, and every one of them been great. I mean, LSU starts bookend freshman offensive tackles, and both have been tremendous. Mason Taylor, the tight end, caught the 2-point conversion against Alabama in a touchdown pass. He's been great, but defensively, LSU has some problems with pass defense probably until like about 3 or 4 games ago. And a lot of the problem was that again, people were still trying to communicate and do a better. There was some communication problems between the sideline and the players on the field, and within the players on the field. But everybody is on the same page now. They seem to be playing a lot better. The guys that came to LSU from Arkansas have fit in perfectly. Both of them have really contributed a lot, and Kelly did a really good job with his transfer portal. He got some really good guys. I mean, basically he got 5 defensive backs who are all really good, where LSU had to really replenish last year. He got Jay Daniels from Arizona State late as a quarterback. I mean, most of the guys he got have been plugged in, are really contributing. But as Kelly said, we're getting transfer portal again this year, but it's not going to be as much. We want to build our team with a freshman class, and now that he's had a full recruiting cycle, you can see with his commitments that he's doing that. But he said he'll assess at the end of the year and see what he has to do to go back in recruiting to the 4-year, the transfer portal, the free agency of college football.
So you mentioned how you didn't really know how many points LSU would win by, despite the fact that you think that they're going to win. I think the line has been hovering around 2, 3.5. Like, I don't think it's gone above LSU being favored by 4 points. What does Vegas know that we don't know? Because I mean, like, the last time we saw Arkansas play a football game, I was not impressed whatsoever. I know they're still a good football team, but LSU is coming off of a huge win. They're playing hot, like you've been saying. So what do they know?
Maybe Vegas still doesn't believe in LSU. Maybe they think the LSU, go prove yourself after a big win. I guess they didn't think Ole Miss was a big win, and so they went out and they beat Alabama. Listen, I thought LSU would lose to Alabama. Honestly, I thought they would. I thought they'd give them a really good game, but I thought they would lose. I think Vegas is still skeptical. Like, okay, are you really the number 7 team in the nation? Can you handle success? Then go out and prove it. And they know it's they must look at the LSU Arkansas history. They know how goofy it can be. And again, you never know. Again, the whole KJ Jefferson thing, you don't know, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? How much is he going to play? How much effective is he going to be? LSU is acting like he's going to play and be really well, so that they prepared for that. But again, I mean, I just think in this series, it's hard to get a grasp of point spreads and what's going to happen. So I think maybe Vegas thought, okay, LSU is probably the better team, but they're playing at Arkansas. Let's get Arkansas that home field advantage edge, and we'll give it like a 3-point, 2-3-point edge, something like that. That's what we can deal with at that point. So again, LSU wasn't favored against Alabama. I don't think they were favored against. They've been ever since they lost to Tennessee. They've been favored very much, but they just kind of gone out and played. Again, Brian Kelly, is more worried about getting his team better from week to week in the process, and his team had bought into that. They never, and they like the fact that he's pretty calm during games. Now he gets into the officials some. And he'll get into some of his players some, but it's not like a Nick Saban total meltdown, sideline meltdown. It took some LSU fans to get used to him. They like their coaches to be demonstrative. Saban, Orgeron, I don't know what Les was. He was spacey. But Kelly is very calm over there, and again, like a CEO, and I think it kind of reflects on the way LSU plays, that they never really get rattled ever. I guess Tennessee, they got down early and that was it, and they were digging out the whole game, but they've got behind the game and never got rattled and stuck with their plan, and that's a reflection on Kelly and his coordinators.
All right, Ron. I think we're good here. I'm looking forward to a goofy game on Saturday. I hope that it's an interesting game, a close game. That would make it more fun and be better for business. That's for sure.
Well, absolutely. I know basketball season's like here, and everybody's all hyped up on the Hogs already, and maybe Muss will run around the field Saturday with his shirt off to get the crowd into it. Muss might do that.
Yeah, he would. I mean, he's always there in the student section, and they'll put the basketball team up there on the big board. So we'll see if he's got anything to get the crowd riled up. That would be funny.
I've known Muss a long time. I mean, he was with the Grizzlies as an assistant, then came to LSU as an assistant. I knew, of course, he's been a pro head coach. I knew he'd be a great head coach, and I knew all he had to do is get to a school like Arkansas, which has always had really good basketball. Start with Sutton and Nolan, and then been kind of up and down since. But I knew if they got Muss, he could recruit like the fuse. So I expect Arkansas to be huge in basketball this year. And I know fans are going, let's just get to basketball. Well, maybe you can finish strong here. Maybe you can.
I was about to say, I feel like all the fans have shifted to basketball, but a win over LSU would definitely shift it back to football. All right.
You had a good start. It just things happen, you grow in a program like this. You figure out what went wrong this year, and you come back next year.
All right, Ron Higgins from TigerDetails.com. Thank you very much, man. We really appreciate it.
Sure, guys. Take care.